Two, three, four.
Welcome to Off Panel, Sketch.com's weekly podcast. This week's guest is the artist of East to West at Image Comics. It's Nick Dragotta. Thanks for coming on the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me, David.
So I want to talk about a recent announcement at the Image Expo at Emerald City Comic Con. You were part of the Creators for Creators grant, which is a grant that gives $30,000 and mentorship to a budding comic creator, cartoonist, penciler, writer combination. Just creators who are looking to tell their story. What was the genesis of that idea, and how did it all come together?
I think it might have been just a response to my experiences coming up in the business and wanting to have more opportunities for new creators. When I was graduating college, I went to art school, and I didn't see a lot of job opportunities. I mean, I graduated when I was 22. And I didn't get my first job working in comics till I was 28. Like, I just wasn't good enough. And what actually led to my first job was there was a thing called the Xeric Grant, and that was started by Peter Laird. I'm mispronouncing his name, but he was one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he did a thing called the Xeric Grant where they would grant money to comic book creators to self-publish. And I tried out for one of those. I didn't win it, but it got me off my ass and got me to produce 15 pages of the comic I was proposing. And those 15 pages ended up getting me my first work at Marvel Comics.
Wow.
So it's like, one opportunity that I didn't get led to another opportunity. So it's I always kind of like that idea, and I remembered that. And, I just think too, it's really difficult now for younger creators to come out with original material and own it. So this is kind of just a response to that. And I should preface too, like, I think everyone that's a part of this, every founder that's a part of this, has their own experiences and their own reasons for doing it. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
It's funny. I was actually going to bring up the Xeric Grant. I had no idea that you had applied for it at one point, because that was like the only other comic-centric grant I could even remember. It seems like that kind of thing is definitely important in this day and age. I mean, I know that creators have more options. You can create a web comic, you can release your comic on Tumblr, you can do this, you can do that. I mean, like, one cartoonist I really like is Jake Wyatt, and he's releasing his comic Necropolis on, God, I think it's actually on Tumblr, and I think it's eventually going to get released at Image Comics, which is pretty great. But I mean, that's not an option for everybody. So it's cool that something like this is coming together, especially with such a amazing collective of people behind it.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone's going to bring their own experience to it and their own expertise and how to manage, how they manage their career, and then they can share that as a mentorship aspect. And it's all volunteer too. So, we're growing and we're building it, as we're doing it. But submissions are open now, and the Creators for Creators grant is going to give $30,000 to, a cartoonist, a single writer artist, or a team, a writer and an artist. And the submissions will be open for 6 months.
Wow.
So, get them in. It started May 1st, and it'll end. Submissions will close on November 1st.
Nice. Well, I know you can't talk about it too much, but so I actually want to get into East to West, and so I talked to Jonathan, I think it was last month, and we got pretty deep into it, and it was partially because I reread the entire series to prepare for the podcast, and it was quite the reminder as to how good the book is, because, like, when you're reading it on a monthly basis, you're like, oh yeah, I enjoyed that, but when you read it all together, you're like, damn, this is quite the tapestry you guys are weaving. But I want to go back to the beginning of the book, and you guys are 25 issues in now. You just started the second year, or the end of the second year of the apocalypse. You guys worked together on FF before this. What was the appeal of the project for you, and how did you know you wanted to work with Jonathan again?
The appeal was doing a creator-owned book,
Hmm.
first and foremost, and just, I feel like I had nothing to lose going into it with Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the work we were doing at Marvel I was really enjoying it and I was happy with it.
Hmm.
But like this also goes back to Creators for Creators. Like my real education into this business and how to make money and how to have some longevity as a comic book artist stem from me going to Image.
Hmm.
Because like when you do a creator-owned book, you really learn every aspect of what it takes to do a comic, and then also how the money works, and distribution, dealing with retailers, and things like that. So there was many reasons what appealed to me to do it. So, that is kind of like it's a saving grace. I don't know if I'd even be in comics if I didn't do it, because I was kind of at my wit's end of doing the work for hire stuff. There just wasn't a lot of growth, like artistically and financially, I was doing, it's just the way that system is, you're just cranking it out. No one's waiting for you. You have to turn your work in on time. And then financially it was tough making ends meet. My wife and I had started a family, and, we live in California. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Actually, one of the things I think is really interesting about the Image experience is just what you were saying. Like, you kind of have to be involved in every aspect of the book, and especially for like, your guys' book has done really well in trades. And then you guys released a hardcover too, right? Of the
Yeah.
first year. So
every 15 issues there will be the hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have the hardcovers too, and then beyond that, you guys have like, there's like things like foreign licensing and like making deals with. I don't. You have a French publisher, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we do, and I'm like flaking on their name.
Is it
right
Urban?
now.
Or is,
yeah, it's Urban.
Yeah, it's Urban. Yeah, so you guys have like deals with like Urban and things like that, which means maybe you end up in France. So it's like it's kind of funny. Like, people like think about it. It's like, oh, just go do creator owned, but it's like there's so much more to that than just like doing the work. You have to do the work, and then there's your other parts of your job. Like, I'm not saying that you're editing or anything like that, but I'm sure that you have to self monitor a lot more than you would otherwise, because you guys don't have an editor on the book, do you?
No, we don't have an editor. We're kind of our own editors, and
Yeah.
if I was going to write and draw my own book, which I'd like to do in the future, I think I would want an editor, just to, one, help with my terrible grammar, and two, just to have someone to bounce ideas off of. But I also could see like Hickman doing that role for me. Like I would share stuff with him and get his opinion. So it's more like just someone to bounce ideas off creatively, but then also that someone to help write solicits and do all the other little details that, get a book out on time, help me manage stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of hats you have to wear when you do an Image book, and or any kind of creator-owned endeavor. And I think that's like, I think that, again, to bring it back to Creators for Creators, that's what I think the mentorship aspect I would like to play a role in helping new creators understand all the different facets and all the different revenue streams that are available to them when you do your comic, and how you can get that comic, like you said, distributed on a global scale, and in bookstores and things like that. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot to learn. And thankfully there's publishers like Image that are like really transparent in how they deal with their creators, and ultimately it is up to the creators. So not only are you creating the book, but yeah, you're responsible for branding it, promoting it. And don't get me wrong, they help. And there's a whole team there that is in place to help you and guide you along, and has always been there for me to help answer questions and whatnot.
I know. Well, this interview happened because Kat Sells, or I know it was actually Bria Skelly was the one who connected us, and so thanks, Bria. You're awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's what, like, and when we with Creators for Creators, when we're inviting other publishers, like we want to align ourselves with these publishers that share these same ethics and this kind of, that have the same purpose in the way we look at comic books. So.
Well,
yeah, and there's been quite a few there's been a lot of interest from other publishers, and we're getting around to all that now. And there's going to be some exciting announcements in the future. So,
ooh. Well, getting back to to your, like Jonathan Hickman. I mean, he's obviously a big name and everything. And you guys, one thing that really stood out about like the work that you did together with like FF and Fantastic Four and stuff, like specifically like. One of my favorite Marvel comics, like the past decade, was that I think it was FF27. I think it was like the final issue. It was like the one where, it was just like Franklin Richards' dream world, basically, and it was just this wonderful, wonderful thing. But
that was the last issue.
Yeah, it was the last issue, and it was like, and it ended with him and was it Leech? God, no, it wasn't Leech. It was
Leech,
like
Artie.
Artie, jumping through into like the closet and everything, and it was just like it was such a wonderful book. And I remember reading that, and I was just like, I hope these guys work together again. And then you guys did. But what is it about like working with Jonathan that just jives well with your work?
He just lays down some big ideas. And then I think one of the coolest things about Jonathan is that he just like really respects what artists do, because he's an artist in his own right, and he's written and drawn his own comics. And like he definitely understands how hard the gig is. So like he doesn't nitpick stuff. He just constantly moves forward, and he definitely puts his opinion down. And I mean, there's definitely times in East of West where like I have a lot of freedom to do what I want. And if I stray a little too far off, like, he'll be like, yo, rein it in here. Or can we at least add a page to bring it back to where I wanted this to be heading towards, if I kind of start to expand the storytelling too much visually. But he just, I don't know, he works like we just are in simpatico. Like, I mean, he can, at this point, like he likens it to like jazz. We're doing jazz comics.
Yeah.
Because at this point now with East to West, like he'll just give me a few pages of what an issue is and just kind of break down the scenes and maybe a beat of dialogue here or there. And that's really all I need. And need to know, and because I want to be integrated into the story too. I don't want to just be dictated especially the visual storytelling. Like, let me do that. And then I like to, inject myself into it, and then Jonathan gets it back, and then he kind of has to wrap it up with the dialogue. So I think we both kind of, in that sense, you both push each other and stretch each other's abilities a little bit. And then like, we're also growing on our own, because we are going out into a void, like he basically gives me the basis of an issue, and he doesn't know what I'm going to give him back. And then I don't know, when I give him my art back, I don't know how he's going to write to it.
So it's really built on a lot of trust.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but it's a lot of fun too. And I think like, it's cool. Like we don't, we accept what we're doing and know that sometimes we might not get the results back that we expected. Like, cause when I'm drawing these scenes, I'm like saying, oh, well, Death will say this here, and 9 times out of 10, Jonathan does exactly the opposite of what I was thinking, and it's always better. Like it's just he's so good at the dialogue, and I just love, like, in my opinion, he always elevates it. So it's fun. Yeah.
One thing I thought was really funny from my conversation with Jonathan was we talked about issue number 22, which was the totally silent issue, which I really really loved, and and he was talking about how, like, he just kind of gave you like general instructions, and like one thing that he noted that was how you wrote, how like there was like the writing on the gun that the like kind of, I guess, the mercenary contractor overlord at the end ended up shooting him with. He like wrote failure on it before he shot him. He's just like, I don't even know where he came up with that. And I was like, that's hilarious. But also, I just have to ask, and I asked him on this because he had no idea, was your intention that he had to write failure on it before he could shoot himself with it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was, well, at the end of that issue, Archibald, we reveal that Archibald was behind the assassination attempt. Mm-hmm. So in Jonathan's little like breakdown, it says this guy, Archibald gets the message mm-hmm. that says failure. So then it's up to me to say, all right, well, we know this little like this little sleeper cell of assassins, they all commit suicide at the end. They all get done in. The one guy even kills the other guy, mm-hmm. and then before he kills himself. So I'll ask you, how would you relay that message? Or do you even? I mean, I even asked myself, do you have to even show that he relays that message? Could we just end on the page that just says failure with Archibald, mm-hmm. or should we show a more direct connection? Like, so it's all kinds of different options you have. And I think normally I think we'd have him go over to a computer terminal and open up his email, and I'm being really explicit, mm-hmm. and he could type a message to Archibald.
Yo, but Archibald, I failed. Sorry, buddy. Gotta kill myself. I feel
like in the world of East of West, everyone has a gun. In the future, guns will probably be so prevalent and everywhere that they'll be like our telephones, and then we'll be able to not only take calls on our guns and hold them up to our ears, but we'll be sending text messages on them. So it's just shit like that. Like, it's fun to just kind of get into like little nooks and crannies of the world, mm-hmm. and be like, this is how he would send that message. He'd text it directly off of his gun, because in the future, I'm sure some gun maker is going to make the gun phone.
It might be happening right now because they hear this. To get back to what I was saying about failure, though, is like, I kind of looked at it like, how there's like those phones in Japan where you have to like, so you don't drunk dial or drunk text, you have to breathe mm-hmm. into a breathalyzer to be able to use it. I kind of thought it was like he couldn't use the gun unless he typed in failure, because like that means he has to use it now to kill himself. He's like, sorry, buddy. And then he texts it to him and then he can kill himself. Anyways.
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what we intended.
I think way too much into this, apparently. But
no, but that's what I love about this. Like, every reader brings their own to it, and there's so many, like, I've heard so many different takes on it on East to West that I'm always just like, absolutely.
So I have to ask about like how you kind of like lay out the story and everything, because you guys work your own modified Marvel style. And I wanted to ask about like how you pace the story, because one thing I really appreciate about it is it's like you definitely give moments to the story where it's like you add an additional panel here, or like remove one there, that like helps the book have this like really lovely I know it was weird to say lovely about a book that's about the apocalypse effectively, but like it's just this nice pace to it that just feels so like controlled and measured in like a very like powerful way. But anyways, so like when you're laying out a page and when you're laying out a story, like how do you know, like how do you make those choices? Like how do I expand, like you expand this to like a 2-page splash, or you add 10 panels or 20 panels instead of having just one panel? Like, how do you make those choices? Like, what's your process for putting like a page together, I guess?
I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, I think like a lot of it's just instinctual.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's part of doing this. Like, I mean, it's, for me, like I see, there's people online and they're always giving in advice and blah blah. I would never give advice because I really don't know. I trust my instincts, and I feel like I'm learning every time I'm putting pencil to paper
Mm-hmm.
or pen to screen because I do digital. Like everything's a learning process, and I look at it and I always think it could be better. And then I just start with laying down some drawings and creating a sequence of moments. And then you kind of look at it and you say, what can leave out? What can I leave out? What can I add to maybe heighten it? What image could possibly be a splash page
Mm-hmm.
to really drive a point home? And then within that, like as much as I like to think every artist is making all these great decisions, the truth of the matter is we're on deadline. And at the end of the day, especially towards the end, I mean, that's the ultimate motivation, is just like getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of it is just stripping it down to be like, yeah, I got to draw X amount of pages in a week. I have to get this done. So, what decisions can I make to pare it down, to make it immediate? I mean, I guess that's where my headset is at right now, is like, I want to make my storytelling as immediate as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to strip out a lot of the detail. I want to try and draw more in silhouette. And when I say silhouette, I don't mean just black it out. I mean,
Right.
just like strong shapes that readers can immediately identify,
Mm-hmm.
and just get that. I want to get out of the way, if that makes any sense, and just kind of like have that story come across,
Mm-hmm.
have that words and pictures work together. I don't know. So the readers can kind of immerse themselves in it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And then always trying to like figure out what is the most universal way to draw.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at the same time, be interesting. I mean, there's so many amazing artists that I look at and I draw inspiration from, and that I want to do. So especially the latest issue, I started looking at someone tweeted some old John Romita Jr. stuff, and I just like went back in my garage and pulled out all these old comics. And you're going to look at this next issue and be like, gosh, Nick was just hacked out some John Romita Jr. poses here. But I looked at a lot of the stuff, and I was reading a lot of it before I went to bed, and it just seeped in, and it's like done it kind of in the next issues, like some of the rendering and some of the way he poses figures. And so I don't know, it's all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
then just trying to get it done.
That's really funny that like that kind of like the Romita stuff kind of pulled in on you like by osmosis. It's like it's not like you're
All of it
conscious.
does.
Yeah, it's not
All
like
of
you're
it
like
does.
consciously thinking about it. That was when Jonathan and I talked, we talked a bit about how when you guys were first putting the book together, you were like bringing some manga influences to the table. And I know that like you're a big like Naoki Urasawa fan. And I think it's interesting looking at that. Like, I mean, how does that kind of stuff influence you? Because like it seems like I'm not saying that like East to West is its own type of manga, but it seems like that's a big artistic influence for you. Is like that the storytelling aspect of it. Because like a lot of Urasawa stuff it's like it was kind of like what you're describing before. It's kind of, I'm not saying that it's like there's a lot of panels going on, but it's very lean storytelling.
Well, thanks. I mean, the thing for me with Urasawa is like, is there anyone creating better page turns
Oh
in
yeah.
comics than him? I mean, like, he does suspense so well.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, there a lot of manga. Like, I just think the visual storytelling in manga is the best
Mm-hmm.
across the world. I just think they're less consumed with doing like illustrated books and more consumed with just telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my opinion. I mean, a lot of people might tell me to fuck off, but that's my opinion. And I like, when I read 20th Century Boys, or Pluto or things like that, I really get invested in the character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm absolutely looking at that and trying to figure out what it is he does that works so well. And then not only that, but his output is insane.
Oh god, yeah. That's the funny thing is when you look at it, it's like a lot of his books he was doing like two at a time, And I
Hmm.
don't even know how that's possible. Like I started reading Monster, and I was like looking at this timeline. I was like, he was doing part of this while he was doing 20th Century Boys. How is he doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on all day about him. He's the greatest. I mean, is Happy his tennis manga?
I don't know. I haven't read that one.
Uh, and I mean, just the way he draws tennis.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like you're on the court, you're in the match.
Hmm.
I mean, and there's, it's just like I'm in awe of how he tells a story, and I want to tap into that because
Hmm.
when I read his comics, I'm fully invested. Like I want to turn the page, I want to see what happens, and I know the payoff is going to just lead me to the next 20 pages, but the craft behind it is just so solid.
Hmm.
And I think we can all learn from that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, speaking of things that you're interested in, one thing that I really like about your work in general is that, like, I talked about issue 22, the mostly wordless issue, and like a lot of like, I feel like a lot of East to West is your art is given a lot of room to breathe to like let actions and like mannerisms and posture and things tell the story without needing words to do it. And I think that's part of the reason why you and Jonathan work so well together, and why your style works together, is like it's not set to being like one thing. It's kind of flexible depending on how your art turns out, and then he works off that. But as an artist, like is that like is the character acting and like kind of the interactive elements of the characters on the page, is that something that interests you in a particularly great deal?
yeah, I mean, don't I think that it's really important
Hmm.
to like act the characters on the page, and then so readers can recognize like who their attitudes and things like that, and the different shapes, and how old people stand as opposed to the young people, and the different body shapes and things like that. So yeah, I think it's just another storytelling tool, and
Hmm.
one that I mean, I think I can be a lot better at personally.
I always find it funny when I talk to artists, because I mean I think everybody does this to a degree, but it seems like it's really heavy on artists. Is like it's like you look back at your work and you're just like, oh man, I see what I could have done better there. As opposed to like I look at it and I'm just like, holy crap, Nick Dragotta is so good at art.
Well, I mean, there's so many incredible artists that like I'm in awe of. Like I said, and I think like too, like I don't want to get stale, or I don't want to get set in my ways. I want to continue to grow
Hmm.
and evolve, and I want to like. I mean, I think I can draw. I want to draw way more interesting. Like I want to just be more interesting for myself, and readers might not like the direction the stuff goes in, but I don't know.
Well,
Just
I know you're pretty tight on deadlines and everything, but do you feel like within East to West, you feel like you can continue to push yourself in like the ways that you're saying, like you can experiment on the page and figure out better ways to tell a story that like satisfies a side of you?
yeah, but I think like I guess what I'm getting at is like I guess I don't want to stray too far into like what I want to do, because I feel like we've set up this world,
Yeah,
and I think like that next evolution would have to be me writing and drawing my own
sure.
stuff, and then like I don't even know what that is. I mean, I know what I'd want to do, and I know the direction I would want to take it in, but it would have to also be something like where I just sit down and probably just draw for a month or two trying to figure out exactly like what it is, like, because I definitely would want to pare it down way more, and um I don't even know, but like yeah, like East to West is just like it's kind of set now,
Yeah,
the stage is set, and I think readers have certain expectations, so
yeah.
I'm not going to go too far into like Nickland. I'm going to keep it to what me and Jonathan have set up,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and do what works.
That makes sense. I mean, like once you get, I mean, you guys are 25 issues into it. If you had a huge stylistic shift, everyone would be like, "What is happening with East to West? This is crazy."
Yeah, I mean we're cruising now. I don't know. It's like I mean, issue 27 is kind of getting wrapped up on my end,
Hmm.
and then um, yeah, by the towards the end of the summer, we'll be ready for the next hardcover. So the next, we'll be at issue 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then or 29 will be the next hardcover, because we did that world issue that
Yeah.
wasn't numbered. So we're really at like issue 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like in 2017, we're going into like our final story, like large storyline, like our final kind of 15 issues, if you will. And that might go to 20 issues. I don't know yet. But yeah, I mean, I think this East of West on my end will probably be wrapped up in 2017.
That's wild.
Yeah, some of it may come out into 2018, depending on how fast we work. I'm sure it will, actually. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's just, it's moving along. It's crazy how time flies.
I actually wanted to ask you about kind of schedule in general. Like, how does, like, it sounds like, I mean, the issue 25 came out, I think it was April 13th, and no, it was April 20th. And anyway, so the issue came out then. And that was about like a month ago when we're recording it. It sounds like you're already like 2 issues past that, basically. So how does that schedule work for you? Like, are you able to do, like, how long does it take you to finish your part of an issue?
I mean, it fluctuates. Like, I go really hard, and then I kind of like, I don't take time off, but I definitely don't work with the sense of urgency that I do when a deadline's looming. So when a deadline starts looming, like, I will start doing 2, sometimes 3 pages a day, towards that like last week. And it just, the work just gets easier, like you just get into this groove, that like, it just, I work digitally. So like, I lay down the thumbnail and then I just go right to finishes off of that. So, and usually like the first line I put down is like the one I like, and I just start trusting that. So I start working much more quickly. But like, I can do an issue in like probably a couple weeks, but to be realistic, like, I would kill myself if I worked at that pace all the time. So it's more likely, like, it is about a month, like 3 weeks to 4 weeks. But like those first few weeks are always like, I might get 5 or 6 pages done. And then it's like, oh shit, now I have 10 days to do 15 pages, and then I do it. And then like, we should also talk about, the rest of the creative team.
Yeah, Frank Martin.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Martin is huge, and Frank saves our asses all the time, and will color a whole issue, right on deadline, and be right on my ass following me, and just looks fantastic. And then Russ Wooton, the letterer, because he doesn't get full scripts ahead of time. He's getting it from Jonathan, like, after I finish, so that it's always a rush there too. And then Jonathan, like, this is one of the unique things about our team too. Jonathan does all the graphic design. So like, we have a good tight little team, and everyone respects each other's time and what they do, so like, it works out really well. And I mean, it really is like, it really does come down to like every element of this team doing their part and getting this book out. And we're not monthly. I mean, we're probably closer to monthly to 6 weeks. Because we just fall off,
Yeah.
it just happens. But like, I guess that, I wish we were monthly. I want to really start to train myself to be better at that. And I think on average, we've done maybe 10 issues a year. I think in the last year was our worst year to date. And I could point to 2 things: Jonathan's Secret Wars and me. I did every convention that I was asked of, and I'll never do that again. But like, I was all over. I did it. I don't know. You name it, I was probably there.
Wow. Because
the hardcover had come out, and I was like, I'm going to go promote, and it really just took time away from the book at the end of the day. So like, I'm definitely pulling way back on that stuff now.
Yeah, that was actually, I talked to somebody about that not that long ago, and because a convention isn't just like 3 days or 4 days or whatever. It's like you have the travel time, and then you might have like, I got con credit at the end of this, and so now I'm gonna be sick for like 5 days afterwards, and it's like the time cost can be significant, especially when you're doing a ton of them.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's taxing because you're sitting there, you're talking all day, I'm doing drawings for people. And then, I think you pack so much into a weekend that like when you get back, the last thing you want to do is like jump right into drawing comic book pages. And then, like you said, that's if you didn't get sick.
Mm-hmm.
But just even the travel takes a lot out of you.
Oh,
But,
totally.
yeah. So, but you got to get out there. And,
Yeah.
promote your work.
So talking about Frank, one thing I'm really curious about is like how, I mean, I'm guessing like towards the beginning, you guys probably talked about like, the general look of the book and everything like that. But he's obviously a pro and he's doing his thing. And like, it sounds like you guys are a well-oiled machine. But how does having somebody like, do you approach your own art differently? Like because you're doing it all digital and everything like that, do you feel like Frank can kind of fill in some gaps, or like you leave some?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, I don't like,
work?
I mean, I'll just leave open backgrounds because I know Frank will do this really lush painted sky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I absolutely know like Frank Martin will come in and save my ass. I mean, he's just as much as a finisher on the final pages as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And sets a lot of the tone with his colors and handles a lot of the scene changes. If I was going to draw this book in black and white, it would probably look a little different, just in terms of a lot more spotted blacks and stuff like that. But like, I mean, Frank is a great artist in his own right, and he draws, and he's done covers for Marvel and stuff. He did a run of covers on Thunderbolts that were awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that. So
yeah, he can do this too, I think, and I think he will. But yeah, I definitely can cheat a little bit in terms of backgrounds and things like that. And even, drapery and stuff like that, and musculature. Like I can leave it a little bit open, and I know Frank is going to finish it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really cool, and I think that's something that a lot of times people don't realize about like modern art teams, or even probably art teams back in the day and everything. Is just like a lot of that work can happen at different phases than we really realize. And it's like, and like I know like the art credit thing comes up a lot, but it's like, with colorists, colorists and line artists and stuff. Sometimes it's really hard to tell who did what. I mean, obviously, like the colors are the colorists, and like a lot of the line artists can be the line artists, but it's like where some of these things fall is kind of nebulous at times, and it's kind of interesting to hear how much Frank can really bring to an issue or a panel or a page of East of West.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think like that's why I think I concern myself mostly with the storytelling, and the design and the look of the world and the characters, because that's what I most can control. And then I think like almost like colorists are like maybe the new inkers, and they like are embellishing and finishing the art to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Frank is amazing. I'm really lucky that we got him. I'm really like, he was absolutely like our first choice. Like when we were looking around at colors for East to West, there was, colorists I think are hard to come by. That's why I hope that they're all charging like rates that they are happy with, and I hope that they get a percentage of sales on the books they do and things like that, because Frank absolutely deserves it, and he's a huge part of what makes East to West look like East to West.
Yeah. And same thing with like, you talked about Russ and you talked about Jonathan. I mean, that's like Jonathan's design elements are such an important part of the book. Like, I talked to him about it on the podcast I did with him, and it's just like it's like in East to West and in all of his books, but in East to West in particular, like I feel like they do such a great job of establishing mood and adding weight to the drama with like the transition pages and everything.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I mean, like as an artist, is working with a writer who's very attuned to the visual side of things like a major plus for you, or are you guys separate enough where it doesn't really there's an interaction between those two parts?
Um, I mean, Jonathan is going to do what he wants to do. I mean, first and foremost.
I believe that.
Yeah, like I mean, he's done this before.
Hmm.
But like I don't like so I guess we're talking about like the chapter breaks
Yeah, yeah.
or the way an issue opens up and we'll have like the large kind of like title scroll and
Hmm.
then he'll put a white page of just a quote.
Hmm.
I always saw that as being additive to the storytelling.
Totally.
Like even like he'll say the name, the title of that particular issue, and then the following page might be a quote. And I like reading that because it's like he's playing with, he's hitting a beat. Like
Hmm.
there's a certain rhythm to it that I think is really cool. And it's also like if kind of can clue you into the theme of that particular issue. So it adds to that general mood and that story we're trying to create.
Hmm.
If it didn't add to the story, yeah, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
What's the deal with
But
all these white pages?
yeah, I mean, but I think it adds to the story. It adds to what we're trying to do, and I think it kind of, it's cool.
Hmm. It totally is. And you had also mentioned character design a little bit, like like building the world and everything. And one of the things I really, really like, and this might be totally me reading too much into some of the character design stuff you've done.
It probably is.
Oh, we'll see, we'll see. But like I really like you get a chance to bring real diversity to the look and feel of the book. I mean, like you look at like the In This Nation, and they're a really interesting example, if only because you know for a group that's very advanced, like their
Hmm.
shamans and their other leaders kind of all look like they came from an assembly line. Like, and I don't mean that in a negative way towards your art. I feel like it's very deliberate. Like it kind of fits their data driven nature, and that's where it comes into maybe speculation. But I feel like it says a lot about them. Like they all have they have the guys who are like just always engaged with like the feed of information coming in, and like
Hmm.
and I feel like the way that they look really says a lot about them. So when you're designing characters, are you very much trying to go for like a form follows function type of thing?
I guess so, but I think a lot of it too is just the limitations, uh, like of my art. Like I'm doing the best I can, and it just is what it is. Like I wouldn't read too much into it. It just that's me. Like I can look. I don't want to get into like I should probably stop picking on my art so much, but it's just like, like I'm drawing and varying faces as best I can.
Oh
They
no,
say,
yeah.
um, but I'm just saying, like I've heard it said that like, a good artist can draw six different types of, heads, and then like, I think like Alex Toth, like every head was different and stuff like that. But like, I look through it and I'm like, yeah, that's Death's head with black hair, or like I don't know. I mean, it's just I look at it and see my limitations. Really,
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, no, no.
Uh,
I mean, I know what you're saying, but I definitely didn't mean it in a negative way. I just meant like, especially for like the Endless Nation, I meant their actual costumes, not that the people look the same. It was more like their outfits, especially for their leaders. It feels like it's very. I mean, obviously it's deliberate. Like these are like people who are obsessed with technology and people who are
yeah, I
obsessed with
mean, well, the
data.
thinking behind them is there's not many of them.
Hmm.
We know how. Um, we know how they were treated in the past.
Hmm.
So they've become very inclusive in their part of the world, and they've advanced technology to a point where like it's allowed them to be insular, and like they feed out a lot of their technology into this world.
Hmm.
So it's kind of I guess I go back to that a lot.
Hmm.
And they're very like data driven. Like they're constantly being infused with data. Like they're one with their data.
Hmm.
Um, but it just Jonathan's probably better to speak on that, like what motivates and drives them. But they're just I think they're more reclusive.
Hmm.
And then in terms of what goes into the design work, I mean, I look up books, with Native American history and try and add elements in, and then, you know, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, just like trying to simplify it and make it recognizable immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're putting a lot of thought into this.
Apparently, man. You know, it's funny. Like, I always feel like I'm kind of more on the God. This is going to sound insulting to me now, but like, I always kind of feel like I'm more of like a simple reader. Like, when I read it, I just like appreciate the story and stuff. But it's only when I start having conversations with the people who make the books where I'm just like, maybe I'm putting too much thought into this stuff.
No, but I think like you hit upon a point. Like, if you make your cast diverse,
Mm-hmm.
it'll make your story more diverse. You know, it'll make, like, I've never drawn a cast this large. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many characters in this book, and I want them all, like, I want them to be like the real world. Like, everyone's different, and we all have these differences. And then visually, how do you convey that? You know, like, I mean, gosh, you just think of superheroes, and it's definitely grown leaps and bounds recently and gotten more diverse. But yeah, it's typically been the white male superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so, and that was like how I came up, like, learning to draw comics that way. But, you know, just broaden your horizons and look at a lot of reference and integrate it in and get it done.
I was actually going to ask, like, when it comes to like that kind of stuff, like, also including character acting, like, are you? It sounds like you're using reference a fair bit, like, for kind of bringing those elements to life.
For the acting, like the gestures,
for both the acting and also like kind of, because you were saying like you looked at you know, books for Native Americans and stuff like that to try to build their look and everything. It sounds like, you know, you're not just, because it's hard to build a world like this without having some sort of basis. And like, that's one of the nice things about East of West is it theoretically is just like an alternate version history of what our world could have been like. And so,
yeah, I mean, every artist uses reference. I mean, I would think. I mean, you have to. I mean,
I would hope so.
It's so weird. There was someone online recently. It was like a debate about reference, and I guess some people were saying I don't use reference, and some people are like, well, I do. And it was just bizarre. I'm like, you know, use whatever you need to use to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think that's going back to Toth. I think he said, you know, just don't let the reference use you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you use it, and you want to integrate this stuff into your stories and your drawing, but you don't want it to pop out. Like, you want to be consistent in your cartooning and not just trace a car or things like that.
Yeah.
Or if you have to trace a car, but like, make it fit the reality that you have set up.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I mean, a lot of when it's like a real technical gun, or I wish if I ever had to do a Star Wars comic,
Mm-hmm.
I would be all over SketchUp, downloading those models, rotating them, drawing from them, laying them into my pages, tracing them, whatever I needed to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
And within that, I would cartoon it to make it look like, you know, I didn't just trace it. So, I mean, again, it just goes back to, like, it's just more ammunition that you can draw from to make the world seem more, to fill in these little details that the brain possibly can't recall unless you're a genius, you know, or yeah. So,
and then for the acting part, you can end up with some pretty hilarious photos, I'm guessing.
yeah, I mean, but most of that's just gesture drawing. Like,
Yeah.
Most of the figure work is made up, unless it's something difficult, or like there's a lighting thing that I know I want. Like, I think for like when Jalen is meditating or something, like, I'll ask my wife, can you go sit in the yard in the sunlight? Let me snap a quick photo just to make sure I get like that pose correctly.
That's awesome.
Or things like holding things sometimes, you know, just to make sure the hand looks correct. But like, it's just a little thing. Like, I'll snap it on my phone, and then I'll bring that picture up on my phone. I'll have it right next to me, and I'll just draw from that. Stuff like that. But it's minor, you know. Like, I feel like I'm in my 40s now, so like I've done enough drawing that like I'm kind of good I'm good at this point where
it's instinctual.
Yeah, like I guess I have enough tricks to like pull it off. But man, I would stress that everything you can't. Reference is a good thing.
Yeah.
The more you can draw from, the better.
Yeah.
The more ideas you'll get infused with. But then I get it too. Like, if you want to do really good cartooning, you want to just be spontaneous and really get into it. And that's part of it too, like just using both. Yeah.
Well, and I saw that the reference debate, and I always thought that was kind of interesting because it's like, it does kind of feel like reference is essential in the same, for the same reasons why you're saying it. But I talked to Michael Lark about it, and he uses reference. But the thing is like, as he kind of described it, he said it's like, the key is to putting your own filter onto the world, and it's like like you were saying, like you don't want it to look. It doesn't have to exactly be a trace. It can be like cartooning of a trace, and it's like fitting your style based off of that. And I feel like. I don't know, as a reader personally, I feel like whatever gets the job done in the best way and the most effective way for that artist, like if it works, it works. Like all I really like, I am very much a story oriented person in between reading very deeply into what people are wearing and what they're typing into their guns, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, well, yeah, you want the idea first, right? And then I mean, it's how you execute it. But like, I definitely don't, I'm not somebody that's going to take a photo for every panel. I'm going to just like draw it, and just, but again, like, I think you could probably point out a lot of my work. Like there's a lot of wrong things about it, and that could have benefited from reference. But with the time I have and my working methods, like I don't have time. I wouldn't want to do that anyway. Like I like just getting into a good mode and just putting it down and just trying to capture that gesture like out of my head and recall things. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I definitely am looking at Google Images and typing words in and pulling images up to draw from, without a doubt.
That's gotta make your life so much easier. Google Images.
Oh yeah. I mean, back in the day, everyone had these files of reference files, and they would, you can read where like famous artists would sell them, and they would all be so coveted, just filing cabinets of clippings and stuff like that. They would create their own little internet. And I remember when I was in art school, we were all encouraged to do that. But yeah, thank God for Google Images.
Seriously, you can Google anything, it seems, and find it. Okay, so I'm just going to finish with one last question, and this is more about kind of where the book's going, because the 25th issue is like it kind of ended with the beginning of the meeting of the next like chosen 2.0, like Prophet Ezra Orion's like new gang that he's left his parents behind, and he's now doing his own thing with his like crazy monster arm ride.
Yeah.
And anyways, but so you've been on this book for a few years now. What has you excited about where the book's going next as you're starting to approach the end, both as its co-creator and as a storyteller?
I guess it feels like we've built all this stuff up just to now destroy it. And it's all, and that's been like, what's cool too is I was telling this to Jonathan the other day, like, I'm like, there's no way we could have foresaw a lot of these twists and turns.
Right.
And now it's all just coming to a head, and it's all working. Like, we're not like, I'm getting the plots and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's such a stretch. That doesn't feel like I'm just like, that's exactly what this character would do. And yeah, and then also, we started off with a lot of characters. It's not going to end that way. And so like, I think like you're going to see a lot of people dying as we go towards the end, and just, yeah, it's been fun. And I think like now are a lot of the payoffs. Yeah, it's been interesting because we all read of reviews and stuff, and a lot of people are like, yeah, it's east to west, it's slogging along, when's stuff going to happen? I always feel like stuff has been happening. We've been building up these characters, but now, like, there's some big moments and lots of payoffs, and it just feels like every issue now, like, shit is going down. Just the decisions now are like life or death.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's awesome. I mean, I'm just, like being more than halfway through, I'm having more fun than I ever had on this book. Like I look more forward to it now, and I think I'm putting more into the pages because I'm just having a blast doing it.
And you're
So
probably invested in like the story and the characters too, and like that maybe that changes for things for you as well.
yeah, and it's just something like I hope like more creators can experience of just like really just doing 25 issues of a book and just kind of having a story grow and be a part of that and build something big and also work towards a finish because like I don't know where else I would have gotten this opportunity,
Yeah.
just and then it goes back to like how much of my own growth I've seen in my work, because you saw what I was doing at Marvel, like in terms of like then what I got to do with East of West, and then what's the next evolution, So
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
It sounds like the ongoing experience has agreed with you, and I know.
Yeah, but it's ongoing to a point. It's not going to be.
It's a finite ongoing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe when we get to the end, I might be like, dude, I don't want to stop,
We need another apocalypse.
Yeah, or we just keep it going. I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to come to an end. I know the ending, and I'm like really looking forward to going on this journey and getting there. But I think it is. I could see us always coming back and visiting this world, like maybe in special one shots or something and stuff like that, because it's just been too much fun.
Yeah. Well, and you guys have built one hell of a world. All I know is I don't do monthly reviews because I don't know. A lot of times it's kind of tough to review a book every month. It's just like it's hard. Like not to say that you should still say it's just slogging along or something like that, but it can be difficult to come up with new things to say every single month about every single book.
Yeah, I personally feel like monthly reviews are they're kind of stupid. I mean, I think I love good comics criticism. I'm not saying that's stupid, but maybe just like review a first issue and just be like, yeah, this is worth picking up. But like getting into judging story or like just being like, where, you read some reviews like, where is this going? Well, how about waiting to see where it goes and then write your review, you know?
Yeah, I try to do arc reviews for that reason, or like collections or like hardcovers or something like that, just because I find that like it paints a larger picture and you can see intent a lot more than just like if you just read a first issue and you're like, where is this book going? I'm like, well, it's a first issue, so But my ultimate point though is like I don't normally write single issue reviews, but if and when you guys kill Balloon, I might do that just as a celebration to dance on that damn thing's grave. I hate Balloon.
He's a parent.
He's a horrible parent. Yeah. Oh my god. Anyways, well, thank you so much for coming on, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and I know you're very busy, so have a good day.
Yeah, thanks, and keep up the good work. I enjoy what you're putting out there. So
thanks, man. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Off Panel from Sketch.com. You can find this week's guest, Nick Dragotta, on Twitter at Nick Dragotta, on Tumblr at nickdragotta.tumblr.com, his work in East of West at Image Comics with Jonathan Hickman. And if you're a comic creator, don't forget to check out the Creators for Creators grant at creatorsforcreators.org. You can find more sketch content at Sketched. That's sktchd.com. Follow us on Twitter at sketchcomic. Like us on Facebook at /sketched. And if you're an iTunes listener, give the show a rating or review. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode.